It was a weather anomaly unequaled on the Great Lakes, a convergence of three weather systems causing the equivalent of a Category 3 hurricane. And in the days before continuous weather forecasting, no one knew it was coming.
It's known as the Armistice Day Storm of 1940. Today is the 75th anniversary of that event, which not only caused a loss of life, but led to one of the most disastrous days ever for commercial shipping on Lake Michigan.
WZZM 13's Brent Ashcroft takes us back to that fateful November day. Brent.
This storm packed a serious punch. Sustained winds of 80 miles per hour with gusts exceeding 110. Waves on Lake Michigan built as high as 40 feet. Three freighters between Pentwater and Ludington went to their watery graves, taking with them 64 sailors. Throughout the Midwest, more than 150 lives were lost. But this is not just a story offering up a history lesson about this storm. It's also a story detailing the journey of a man who has spent the last 75 years wondering how, where, and why.
We have always gone there on Armistice Day, and we'll probably keep on going.
It's become an annual pilgrimage, a journey in search of meaning, significance, and answers.
Not knowing is the worst thing that can happen, you know, and I never ever knew.
The destination? Little Sobble Point Lighthouse, serving as a shrine for Harold T. Mullen, who tragically lost his father on Lake Michigan November 11th, 1940.
Very few days go by, I don't think about it yet.
Mullen's perennial passage also brings him here, to a marker in a Ludington cemetery.
There's quite a history on that night.
But standing over this gravesite can't compare.
That's where he is, there's no doubt about that.
To standing over his father's real gravesite.
I always planned on going out there.
Which has been resting in the deep for 75 years.
Lake Michigan's an awful big cemetery, you know.
Armistice Day 1940.
And it was unusually warm that day, almost balmy. It was in the high 60s.
Most in West Michigan celebrated in short sleeves.
But by the end of the day, by the late afternoon, it would be a snowstorm.
And a hurricane, all in one.
There was a heat wave coming up from the south, a cold front coming down from the north, and this tremendous wind coming from the west. And where they all came together, this was going to be a weather bomb.
It was too late to alert the ships that were already en route.
Waves grew to almost 30 or sometimes 40 feet high. Winds were clocked at almost 125 miles an hour in certain places in Lake Michigan. None worse than off the shores of West Michigan.
Temperatures dropped drastically as the storm's vortex churned near Little Sobble Point.
The Novadoc, the Anna Minch, and the William B. Davok all found themselves within a few miles of each other off Pentwater, Michigan.
All three freighters would become total losses. The massive swells shoved the 250-foot Novadoc toward shore. It grounded near what is now Silver Lake Beach.
The ship had cracked in half in the middle, and the two halves of the crew couldn't join each other.
2 men died. Fishermen would rescue the 17 survivors.
The Anna Minch, a 380-foot Canadian freighter, was heading from the Straits of Mackinac to Chicago. The storm somehow must have broken the ship in two.
The telltale mast of the Minch would eventually be spotted sticking above the water just south of the Pentwater Channel.
All 24 people were lost.
And the 420-foot William B. Davok, one of the largest ships sailing on Lake Michigan that day, also swallowed by the surge. All 33 crewmen perished.
Tuesday morning, after the storm calmed down, bodies started washing ashore at Ludington. They were wearing life jackets, and the name Davok was stenciled on the jackets.
16 bodies were recovered and identified.
But 17 men were still missing, presumed having gone down with the ship.
One of them was Harold F. Mullen.
I didn't believe it, didn't want to believe it. And it took a long time to believe it, you know. And even after that, you know.
For decades, the younger Mullen would wonder, search.
I still didn't believe it when I was older. I always thought I'd meet him again on a job someplace.
And grieve.
It still is impacting right now. It has all my life.
It would be 32 years until the wreck of the Davok was finally discovered, a couple of miles northwest of the Little Sable Lighthouse.
And the diver who found it reported that it was upside down in 210 feet of water.
Members of the Michigan Shipwreck Research Association explored it in 2014.
There are 17 men entombed in that ship. This is their grave.
Even though his father's final resting place had been found, for Harold T. Mullen,
Today I'm going to find it.
just knowing where isn't the same as being there.
I'm going to find it on the GPS. I'm going to find it on the charts. I'm going to find it. That's it.
We hope that in doing the kind of work that we do, that we're able to offer Mr. Mullen the closure that he's been seeking for all these years.
Destination, Davok.
This is it.
75 years of searching ended with a 20-minute boat trip.
And there you start to see it on the bottom.
Harold took a moment to take it in. Drifting above the Davok, standing over his father's real gravesite.
And there's one purple flower for your father, Harold Mullen, who was with his crewmates just beneath us.
It's been a long, long time. Long time, a lifetime. But somehow I knew that before I'm done, I would know. And now I know. Maybe I'll drift away now. He's there and I'm going away. Maybe that's the way it should be.
Harold Mullen says he will continue to make his annual pilgrimage to Little Sable Point every November 11th. He was there today, and for the first time ever, he was able to stand at water's edge and look 1.9 miles northwest and know exactly where his father is. We should mention two other vessels foundered on Lake Michigan in the Armistice Day Storm of 1940, taking an additional 8 lives. The 43-foot-long fishing tug Richard H. lost off the coast of South Haven, Michigan. All 3 crewmen would perish. Also lost off South Haven on that fateful day, the 40-foot-long fishing tug Indian. All 5 crewmen aboard died at the hands of the storm as well. If you'd like to learn more about the storm and Mr. Mullen's journey, you'll want to check out the web story we have published. It's loaded with a bunch of interactive elements, several photo galleries, raw dive footage of all 3 sunken freighters, a longer version of that wreath ceremony you just saw, many, many more items to peruse. You can find that story right now on WZZM13.com. Nick?
Beautiful story, Brent. Thank you very much.